Dave Hooker Show. A presentation of Off the Hook Sports. Objective insight, expertise, top guests. Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free. Also available on offthehooksports.com.
I compute and obey.
Now to Dave Hooker.
Ready.
All right, here we go. He's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker on this Tuesday, and a lot going on as we'll talk some All-SEC basketball team. Did the Vols get their props despite stumbling towards the end of the season? Tennessee football's biggest question ahead of spring practice. Who starts first, Arch Manning or Nico? And also, we'll talk a little Cruton with the other Caleb. Caleb Jarreau will join us. He's Caleb Calhoun, stationed in New York City on assignment. He is looking for the next great place for a Tennessee player, i.e. Hendon Hooker, Cedric Tillman, to shoot their NIL video. That's what he is doing. So what have you found so far, Caleb, in the NYC? Is there a good place to host some balls?
I mean, I know that the Jets do need some help, and
wow,
somebody to throw to.
You're talking about jump on to the NFL. Let's do this. And
yeah, to be fair, they're in Jersey, so they're not, but they're not in the city.
Yes, go ahead and smash that like button. We love it that you're on board. Matt, Travis, already. Good morning to you. And we'll be with you for the next hour or so, a little longer today, because there's a lot of recruiting news we're going to get to you today, and a lot of news on the site offthehooksports.com. Portions of the program brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning. City Heat and Air. City Heating and Air Conditioning, 50 years in service. They have incredible integrity, and they will get you the absolute correct assessment on your HVAC unit. And it's warming up in Tennessee, so those things are going to start to fail when it gets really hot. I can promise you that. You may just need a new part of Freon. You may not need a whole new unit. That's why you need to call City Heating and Air Conditioning. Good morning to you, Smoky Mountain Red. Remind you that you can listen to the program on the app. You can listen to the program on any of your podcast channels, and you can always subscribe to YouTube. We greatly appreciate that. Mash that thumbs up button, and let's get right to it with today's tough question, brought to you by the aforementioned City Heating and Air Conditioning. It is today's tough question.
Today's tough question. Take a side. Take a stand. The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of offthehooksports.com.
Okay, so obviously I'm all down with NIL. We at Off the Hook Sports pay players. Still sounds weird to say. We love getting the insight and not the 6-minute interviews via press conferences in which they basically are encouraged not to say anything and don't because they're uncomfortable. It's an uncomfortable situation for all parties involved. So we are obviously in the NIL game, and we have no problem saying that. Love it. But that being said, there's a certain percentage of me, maybe 30%, maybe a little bit more, that thinks that NIL and the transfer portal gets us away from what is great about college football, and that is the tradition. It separates it from the NFL, and I don't think college football ever wants to lose that. I always use the NASCAR comparison. They got away from North Wilkesboro and Darlington, some of the other great tracks, and where's NASCAR now? Hoping to get maybe 90 seconds on SportsCenter on a day in and day out basis. So I don't think you ever leave that tradition behind. I think you have to force it, though, in some situations. You have to force it onto prospects, and fans will absolutely love it. So I wrote a column on Off the Hook Sports and why I would have a garden of heroes, whatever you want to call it, and you would have more statues up of former Vols who had success at Tennessee. Obviously, General Neyland's statue is up now, so go ahead and fill in the message boards. Again, mash that like button. Who would you have a statue of? Caleb Calhoun, I will begin with you. Today's tough question brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning.
So I'm trying to spread the wealth, so I'm going to ignore those people whose numbers are retired. Heads up. I'm just letting people know that. Their numbers are already retired. They're already honored. I got 3. I think Al Wilson should be there. Al Wilson was the heart and soul and the best player on what we all agree is the most beloved, greatest team in Tennessee football history. And so you got to have somebody from there. I would go Al Wilson. I would then have Eric Berry. I know the on-field success wasn't the same, but I just, the level of impact he had it can't be understated how big Eric Berry was. And so I've got Eric Berry too. My third is going to be a throwback to history, Gene McKeever. For those who don't know, Gene McKeever was the first superstar in Tennessee football history. He ran for 5 touchdowns against South Carolina in 1929. And most college football historians have all agreed that if the Heisman existed when he played, he would have easily been a Heisman winner. Even with the hatred against Tennessee and the Heisman, they couldn't have ignored Gene McKeever. So those are my 3.
General Nealon said that he was the best player he ever coached, best player he ever saw. So we've got a Butch Jones statue. I think that's in jest a vote. I don't think that's going to happen. And let's start with this, Caleb. Who are the players, for those that don't know, that have their numbers retired? We're talking about the World War II honorary members who passed away. We're talking about Reggie White, Peyton Manning, and who am I forgetting all of a sudden?
Doug Atkins.
Doug Atkins. Oh, I can't forget Doug Atkins. Okay, so the first one, excuse me, that I would say, Travis says Peyton T, Travis Henry, Jamal Lewis, Schuler, Majors. Man, we got a lot now. The first that I would have would be Philip Fulmer. And a lot of people are surprised when I say that because he and I had somewhat of a contentious relationship at times at Tennessee. You're just going to when there's an administration that's going to make a coaching change and you know it and the coach doesn't know it and you're kind of caught in the middle. But I like Philip Fulmer on a personal level. Do I think he can be self-serving at times? Absolutely. Do I think he was a good for the university? Absolutely. And he won a national championship. So I would have a statue of him first and foremost. That would be the first one that I would get up there. So your thoughts on the message board, and Caleb, your thoughts of a statue of Philip Fulmer. I think that there's a lot of reason to do that and some reason not to. What do you think?
Yeah, I can get on board with Fulmer. I think one of the big reasons is you're right. He won a national championship. And look, Alabama they've had a lot of coaches win national championships, but all those coaches get statues that have done it. I mean, if Gene Stallings can get a statue, Philip Fulmer can, because I think we all agree that Phil Fulmer goes down as a greater coach in history than Gene Stallings in SEC lore. Don't we agree on that?
Well, yes, he does have a statue, and I didn't know that until I just Googled it. He apparently has 2 statues. I know he had a special needs son. He's the former coach at Alabama, for those of you that don't know. So he's got one in Tuscaloosa and another one that is where John Mark Stallings Field is with his special needs son. He's done a lot to get back to special needs. So, yeah, I mean, I think that Philip Fulmer is every bit the coach of Gene Stallings.
Yeah, I agree. And so I think winning a national championship is enough to earn you a statue at the university. Now, then there becomes the debate about retroactive national championships. So technically Tennessee claims 1967 as a title season. Do they put a statue of Doug Dickey out for that? I don't know, but it's undisputed with 1998.
You got a couple of situations where great coaches kind of tarnish their legacy. Doug Dickey with the Florida tie going to Florida, and then Philip Fulmer coming back, hiring Jeremy Pruitt. That sits wrong with a lot of people, but Matt says he agrees. Joe says he's tarnished his legacy, which is different. He would have agreed 5 or so years ago. But I'm still down with Philip Fulmer getting a statue, and I'm down with some other guys getting a statue as well. And I don't want to be flippant about this, but I remember there used to be Peyton Manning and T. Martin statues. They were wax, and people would joke and say, does the T. Martin one have money falling out of his pockets because of the issue in 1999 where there was an alleged booster? But I thought you came up with a great one with McKeever. I could certainly see that, and I cited that in my column. Caleb Jarreau, who will join us a little bit later for a big, huge recruiting update, said Peyton Manning and T. Martin. I'm down with that. My 3, though, that I went with, and Doug Atkins is one that I could certainly be talked into. But I look at, and I remember going excuse me, going to see an Orioles game, and they actually have statues of several players and Babe Ruth, who was from Baltimore. And it's a cool way to walk into the facility. And I would have some other guys on there too, but I think the first that I would have would be Philip Fulmer. He's second in wins at UT. And then the next I would have would be Al Wilson. Those to me are the pretty simple ones. And then if you wanted to go old school McKeever, I could certainly do that as well. But I do like the Eric Berry one. The on-field success, to me, wasn't there, but he always answered the question because they didn't have a bona fide quarterback to answer questions. So Travis said, I did say a garden, so I'm thinking 20 statues. Yeah, if you start opening up to 20 or so, I think we include all those guys. But I think it's a super cool thing to do because I would want prospects to see with Eric Berry, hey, you walk in, you do the right things, you play hard. Things may not go well for you on the field, but you're still going to be remembered as one of the all-time greats. And he's a college football Hall of Famer, was just inducted this year. And he would have been, I should say, in the NFL Hall of Fame had it not be for the illnesses, which included cancer and ACL and Achilles. That's a lot. Yes, I think that's a way to remind players, especially from Georgia, hint, 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 that may be touring the stadium during their campus tours, that he was a very special player, even though he didn't win a couple of national championships.
Yeah, I think that's a great one. You've talked me in though. So we both agree on Al Wilson. We both agree Al Wilson. That was one we had. I think you talked me into Philip Fulmer. I think I don't know who I would drop between Barry and McKeever, but I know that Phil Fulmer and Al Wilson are in my top two also now. Because you kind of you're right. Whatever you guys feel about Fulmer as the athletic director, I get it. But Fulmer, the coach, even if I think personally, and I don't know what you think, Dave, I think personally a lot of his success had to do with just inheriting a university that was so far ahead of the curve in recruiting and things like that. And he benefited from that to a large degree. He still won the national championship. So there's no way you could take that away from him. And he was National Coach of the Year that year. I don't think deserved. I think that was just media writers not doing their homework on how loaded Tennessee was talent-wise heading into 1998. And so they gave themselves cover by giving him Coach of the Year. But I think Fulmer, you've talked me in with Fulmer. So I am there with Fulmer and Al Wilson.
He did inherit a program. He was incredibly fortunate in the 98 season, but it's still a national title. And what would Tennessee? I mean, Tennessee would build a statue of Josh Heupel tomorrow if he won a national championship. And that's something that I think gets lost sometimes. In UT Sports Information Department, they send out a ton of tweets that they've broken all these offensive records, but I do think it kind of forgets the past a little bit. Smoky Mountain Red said, just buy Fulmer a statue to put in his own yard after the AD failure. He just showed his true colors. I do not hate him, but he showed his cards. Fair. Derek Barnett should get a statue according to Vols time, as we'll bring Caleb back in. Derek Barnett getting a statue, that to me would be clearly the second level. I love him as a player, but that's the second level, isn't it, Caleb?
Yeah, I mean, Derek Barnett has an all-time record, but if you're going to start giving statues to people with all-time career records, then yeah, you got to go Derek Barnett, Travis Henry, Peyton Manning, Joey Kent, like every all-time statistical record. Like, come on, these guys you can't give them all statues.
Now, I wouldn't have Reggie White on there, and the reason is I thought he had one great year at Tennessee. And that was to prepare for the NFL, essentially. I didn't think that he was great throughout his career. I'd have Eric Berry above Reggie White, which sounds crazy for the younger fans out there. But Smoky Mountain Red said Ed also won a natty at LSU. Does he get one there? I would argue that what Ed Orgeron did as a head coach was much worse. I don't know about much worse. How would you compare the way LSU fans should view Ed Orgeron and Philip Fulmer? By the way, hit the like button, thumbs up. For us, we appreciate that.
I mean, Ed Orgeron won you a national championship. I don't think you put him over Nick Saban, but I think I'd give a statue to Ed Orgeron, Les Miles, and Nick Saban. And yes, it would be like, the rule with Orgeron is the statue has to be with him shirtless.
Nice. But Orgeron, and a screaming face, but Orgeron really went off the rails.
He did, but Okay, not in the same scandalous way, but Gene Stallings went off the rails at Alabama, and I think was the reason for Alabama falling behind. He was the catalyst for the program falling so far behind in the late 90s. He started the recruiting scandals that Alabama struggled with.
That's
And he's got a
But he
statue.
was so gentlemanly about it. And Travis says that was the best LSU team of all time, though. That was one of the best SEC or college football.
Maybe the best team of all time.
Yeah.
Just best. I think that 2019 LSU team would beat the 01 Miami team. I do.
Whew. That's
Quarterback
close.
play. Joe Burrow or Ken Dorsey?
I'll take Joe Burrow.
And they're still very talented everywhere else. So,
all right. So the all SEC team in basketball is out, and your immediate reaction to that as the Vols prepare for the SEC tournament this week. Again, hit that like button if you haven't subscribed yet. You need to do that. Big special announcement coming up, I believe, by the end of the week. So, what are your thoughts on the all SEC basketball team?
You know, I was actually shocked that Santi Vescovi got first team. But then I kind of looked down the list and I'm like, okay, I could kind of see this. If you need a guard somewhere, Santi Vescovi actually somewhat makes sense. Efficient scorer for the overall year. It's weird because we know so many games where he wasn't consistent during the games, but he was. It's kind of like, you know what it is, Dave? It's like you wrote about with Arian Foster last week. Arian Foster wasn't really a fumbler if you really looked at the data when he played at Tennessee. But the times he did fumble were so memorable. And so it was similar to Vescovi. The times he didn't show it were so memorable, but the stats show he was overall an efficient scorer.
Yeah, and then Zakai Ziegler gets some love despite being injured. I was glad to see that. But I still think this Tennessee team can have success without him. As a matter of fact, the same level of success without him, which we still have a hard cap on at being Sweet 16 at best. But if that changes up, I don't think losing Zakai Ziegler, other than the emotional lift, is a huge hit in terms of talent level. You?
No, I don't. The one thing he might be is on defense. And as we did see, he earned all SEC defense, Zakai Ziegler. That was well-deserved. Probably more than his second team all SEC. His SEC all defense was more deserved. I mean, the guy was just such a pesky defender. Like, it's...
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, he's the type of person that Zakai Ziegler is the type of player that you hate him if he's on your team and you hate him if he's on the other team. He's going to frustrate both groups, both sides.
Are we still on board with Tennessee should throw the SEC tournament to prepare for the NCAA?
Yeah, I was going to talk a little bit about that more later in the week, but yes, they should absolutely throw it. Some experts are saying that like they need to win a game to get to the top 4 seed. I don't think the selection committee thinks that. I think the selection committee has already got Tennessee penciled in as a seed, no matter what happens this weekend.
Lenardi had them as a number 3 seed already.
Interesting. Lenardi probably pays a lot of attention to the brackets. To the conference tournament, though. So we don't know how it. Although he didn't last year, he nailed it. Like he kept Tennessee in as a 3 seed even after they won the SEC tournament. And he was right because that's kind of interesting. Either way, I don't think this is, if he already has him as a 3 seed, then them losing Thursday would knock them down to a 5 seed. And I think your goal is a top 4 seed, right? You think top 4 is fine.
Well, my goal when we first had this conversation 2 weeks ago was the top 2 seed. I think there's a significant difference between 2 and 3 or 4, but I think that's pretty much out of the realm of possibility at this point, right?
Yeah, I don't think there's any way. Because even if they win the SEC tournament, the selection committee is not going to care. So, yeah. I mean, so, yes, I'm still in agreement. Chuck the SEC tournament.
Yep. And at this point, when you look at Tennessee's basketball team, you see a defensive team in a time that's just not a defensive basketball era. I heard a stat that on Sunday, 18 players. Now I'm going to the NBA, but the games are similar and somewhat as far as what runs true year in and year out. And be sure and hit that like button. We appreciate it. But 18 players scored 30 points or more on Sunday. That's an NBA record in one day. It broke the record that was a month ago. So, I mean, that's the trend, and that's the trend in college basketball. And that's something I think at some point that you're going to have to see Rick Barnes either adjust to or maybe be done because I don't know that that's going to change. Everybody loves scoring. Major League Baseball loves scoring. They're trying to bring in more scoring. Rick Barnes is kind of do you remember the movie that had Steve Carell in it where he played Noah? I can't remember the name of it.
Oh my gosh, Evan Almighty. That was a horrible movie.
It was a horrible movie, but he's screaming against all of these people that are basically saying this isn't going to happen. I feel like Rick Barnes is that guy, that he is Noah, and that he is saying it's going to rain defense at some point, but I just don't see it happening anytime soon. Portions of the program brought to you by Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn. My distance vision is unbelievable. Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn is phenomenal. Local vision care, whether it's LASIK that I had for my distance vision and getting a tweak for the near vision as well. But Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn cares about you, or they are absolutely phenomenal. And I do think, before we get off the basketball tip, as the kids say, that we need to give Kelly Harper a certain amount of respect, don't we? For turning that whole thing around. Some,
I don't think she turned it around. She got red hot in the SEC tournament, which has happened a lot in the past. It's a tournament. Dennis Felton won it with Georgia in 2008.
Oh my gosh. I remember that like it was yesterday. That was the hurricane or thunderstorm or tornado that hit downtown Atlanta. Mayhem ensued. And
it was.
That was in 2008, man. That 15 years ago. Hard to believe.
It saved him from being fired. And guess what? He wasn't a good coach.
No doubt. It was the worst thing that could have happened for Georgia. And they played 2 games on a Saturday.
They did.
It was unbelievable. It was like Georgia's basketball program was doomed by the basketball gods to keep Felton around for another year. They should have been rooting against him. He was done. Everybody I talked to that covered Georgia on Thursday, he was done. And then he hung around for another year and eventually got fired. Coming up on the program, we are going to have some big-time recruiting news. There was a lot of it. Who starts first? We'll have a breakdown of Texas and Tennessee, Arch Manning or Nico Iamoleva. Also, Tennessee football's biggest question ahead of spring practice coming up next. The answer might surprise you. 2 minutes. He's Caleb Calhoun on assignment. I'm Dave Hooker, just back in Tennessee, off the Hook Sports.
Our family has been creating jewelry since 1986, each piece unique with a story all its own. I'm Rick Terry with Rick Terry Jewelry Designs. I'm a jeweler, and I want to be your jeweler. We're grateful that you chose us to be Knoxville's best jeweler. My family and staff look forward to serving you. So please come see us. Kingston Pike and Campbell Station Road in the heart of Farragut and downtown on Gay Street, right next to the Tennessee Theater.
Inflation has risen to the highest level in over 40 years, according to the April 2022 U.S. Inflation Calculator. Will your investments provide you the income you need in retirement? Are you losing purchasing power of your savings due to inflation? Simply stated, if the cost of goods and services are 8% higher and you're only earning 4% in your investments, that money buys you less of what you need. Right now is the time to act. Call Guardian Investment Advisors today.
Hey folks, Gary Viles here. I want to personally invite you to North Knoxville's newest sports bar and restaurant.
It's Big Orange Phillies, located in Black Oak Center. And yes folks, it's happening in Halls. Big Orange Phillies offers family-friendly environment with homemade meals and the best deli-style subs around. Billiards, darts, jukebox, shuffleboard, and cornhole, and a full bar. We also offer valet parking on weekends and during special events. We even have a covered back patio. It's happening at Big Orange Phillies. We want, we need, and we appreciate your business.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
Chattanooga, we're at it again. For the 5th year in a row, you voted us best of the best criminal and DUI law firm.
And finalists for best law firm and best personal injury firm.
Thank you for the love, Chattanooga. We won't let you down.
Do you want to own the more that owns every job? Then get to Vassy Lawn and Garden in Cleveland and get you a Toro. I'm David Vassy, here to talk to you about Toro. With a Toro Zero Turn, you'll get more out of every minute and you'll reach the finish line faster. At Vassy's, we like to say, no matter if you're mowing 3 acres a week or 11 lawns a day, homeowners and business owners alike find confidence in equipment they can trust from top to bottom.
Vassy Lawn and Garden, Highway 60 North in Cleveland.
Man alive, it's worth the drive.
Got cataracts? We can fix that. Never miss another moment. With a little help from Doctors Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn at cctis.com.
Who's this guy?
Hello, wizard.
The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of Off the Hook Sports.
What?
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
Check out that column on offthehooksports.com when you get a chance about who we would have in statuesque form around Neyland Stadium. I think that would look super cool. Have you been to Camden Yards? I'm sure you have.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
They love that at the front, the statues that they have?
Yeah, it's super cool. The funniest part, and then they have a Baltimore Sports Museum next to it, but the funniest part of Camden Yards is it's right next to M&T Bank Stadium, the Ravens Stadium, and they have a Ray Lewis statue. And they also honor Johnny Unitas there, which we know Johnny Unitas was a Colt, but he never considered himself an Indianapolis Colt.
Okay.
Baltimore Colt. So the Super Bowl trophy is still in Baltimore, funny enough.
Maybe it's an emotional thing because I went to Camden Yards and I saw that. I lost somebody in my family that year. It's 2008, as a matter of fact. And yeah, it was, and I saw Camden Yards, and I just thought that was super cool. If you haven't had a chance, Google it. That's what I'm suggesting to the University of Tennessee. I'll make a phone call today. We're talking some spring practice. They're at it, just right around the corner. So I think their first practice, well, according to Cooper Mays, March 20th. And have you seen when they're officially going to start? I mean, I know they'll roll out the press conference and that sort of thing. Again, mash that thumbs up button, but they're pretty close. We're going to get this thing rolling for long, and the spring game is mid-April, so we'll have complete coverage of that and also some recruiting coverage of camps here soon. But Caleb, we're pretty much there. It's close.
We are. We're pretty much there. March Madness and spring practice usually coincide with each other, and for nostalgia for me, March Madness and spring practice was like once you get over that hump, you started looking forward to school ending for the summer.
There you go. There you go. All right, so let's get to four downs right now. I'll ask the questions. Caleb will answer. We're going to talk some spring practice. If you've got a question about spring practice, go ahead and post it there as we'll attack it right now. And it's brought to you by our friends at Craft Treats. Go to crafttreats.com. Use the promo code Off the Hook. The promo code Off the Hook. You get 20% off. You can go with the CBD treats that will help with your pet's anxiety or digestive issues or arthritis, or you can just get their fantastic holistic treats throughout the board. And it is awesome. Crafttreats.com. Use the promo code Off the Hook. That is Off the Hook. Four downs brought to you by crafttreats.com.
Four downs. Four questions. Four answers. The Dave Hooker Show. Four downs. A presentation of offthehooksports.com.
I'm going to ask you four questions, Caleb, that I'm going to go ahead and tell you will not know the answer to, and you won't even know the answer in 6 weeks when spring practice is done. How about that? Because the coaches are going to keep it absolutely quiet. All right? So I'm going to ask you these questions, and we are going to theorize.
So wait, we're saying that spring practice, isn't that revealing?
A little bit. So, all right. The quarterback, first down. The quarterback snaps will be split evenly between Joe Milton and Nico Iamaleava. Evenly, 50-50.
Yes, because I take Josh Heupel at his word that there's open competition. Even if he's going to give every reason to give Joe Milton the job, I think he's going to split it evenly, because if he doesn't and that gets out, then it gets out that he lied when he said there was open competition.
But you got to get Joe Milton ready.
It's spring practice.
Spring practice is huge for quarterbacks. So is the summer. And Dennis Dodd says that Nico is absolutely stumbling over his own size 15 shoes right now.
Oh Lord. I still think he splits. I think he starts splitting. I'll put it this way. I think he splits the first week.
Okay. 60-40 Joe, according to John. Some of the best food vendors outside the gates of Camden Yard. That is absolutely true. And he saw Cal Ripken's last game there. That's awesome.
Perfect attendance record.
And that's what his wife wanted for her birthday. My wife didn't know what was going on. I said, look at that center fielder. And I think she was talking about the guy behind home plate. She knows nothing about sports. Okay. So I think that they're going to be split 50-50. You know where I stand on Nico. So there's no need for me getting beat up on the message board. I'll just move along. The standout player on offense will be blank.
Offense.
And we'll get to defense. Hit that like button. Hit the thumbs up button. We appreciate it. Make sure you're subscribed.
I'm going to go squirrel white for offense.
You stole mine.
Oh, man. Sorry. I apologize.
Okay. Well, I will actually – I was going to go squirrel white, but so I'm going to take that one back from you. If you Dylan Sampson, Smoky Mountain Red, feeding me answers. Dylan Sampson is another one. If Dylan Sampson ends up being the guy, Matt says Dante Thornton as well.
Is Dante Thornton going to be there for the spring? I wasn't sure.
We're still waiting on clarification for that for sure. But
yeah, I would say Thornton if he was there.
You would say Thornton?
Yes, because I think Dante Thornton is going to be the most record-setting receiver the world of college football has ever seen next year.
That's a little strong. Ever seen?
I'm telling you, a 6'5" slot player in Josh Heupel's offense. This is insane. The only thing I'm hoping for, just as a fan, I want him to stay another year after this year because I want to see Nico Iamaleava throwing to Dante Thornton. This is like the two designs for Josh Heupel's offense in a lab, throwing to each other or connecting with each other.
Gene says Brew McCoy. Gene, I'm going to disagree with one little reason. Matt loves what you're saying about Dante, by the way. But I'm going to disagree, Gene, for one reason. I think Brew McCoy is almost a proven commodity. And my thinking is don't get him out there and get him hurt. Who can forget the Peerless Price injury in 1998 in spring practice where they rolled up on his ankle and he ended up being able to play, but it certainly didn't look like it. Ramel Keaton is another one, boss time, that I'm going to go the other way. I think he's a proven commodity. I don't believe that you have to push those guys in spring. Remember, spring's going to be about limiting some snaps. This is another team. This is 2 full years into Josh Heupel's tenure, Caleb. So I do believe that you're going to have some guys that don't get as much work as maybe they even personally would want because you got to make sure they're healthy. You're going to start to see that out of this program before I flip it to defense.
Yeah, but you covered spring ball enough. And does that always work? You know, one that stood out for me, I remember 2005. I'm going to give you one. You covered the 2005 team. And I remember Cedric Houston had just left for the NFL. And Fulmer's philosophy was to really limit Gerald Riggs in spring ball because they weren't that deep at running back. And then Riggs suffered a season-ending injury anyway.
Well, I mean, that's true. But you're usually going to see a running back pop up out of nowhere because they don't want to get a guy hit a lot. Third down defensive standout in spring practice will be?
Defensive standout in spring practice is going to be...
If you steal mine again, then I'm just going to be so frustrated with you because I have mine. I'm going first. Amari Thomas.
See, that's the one I think you would limit, though.
Well, you still limit, but he's still going to have a standout. The skill position guys can't have the showings that you would consider them a standout guy, but the coaches could still come out and say that Omari Thomas guy is really getting it done. So based off limited snaps, I think you can do more as a defensive tackle or you can do more as an offensive lineman to stand out, even though you may play 25% of the snaps. A skill position player, really, to have an impact and get exciting, you got to go out there. Rebecca says she's all about Caleb's optimism on Dante. So exciting. It is. Keenan Paley is another one on defense.
That's what I'm going with, though. That's what I was going to go with, Keenan Paley.
Guy?
Because he's going to replace Jeremy Banks, and so he's going to be almost a quarterback of the defense this year.
Or he'll start a fight with the quarterback of the offense. He's replacing Jeremy Banks. Maybe he'll do that.
Yeah, no, that is yes.
Do that nowadays. You don't show up for practice in South Carolina week, and then you start a fight with the quarterback.
Until this past weekend, Jeremy Banks was the worst story of an athlete that just really annoyed me this past year the most, given what he did. Ja Morant has taken that title away, but Jeremy Banks was the number one most annoying athlete who acted stupid of the past year until Ja Morant.
Travis said it'll be a DB like rain after a drought. That's the second rain reference. I referenced Noah. Gene said he misunderstood. You're talking spring. The Facebook feed is cutting it out. I'm sorry about that. I don't know why that is, but please get on YouTube. We'd greatly appreciate that. Joe says
there's going to be no DB. Nobody's going to be good back there. Whole unit's going to be trash.
Got to get better at some point. I don't care if they throw me and Jarreau out there at some point. It's got to get better.
They lost the Jonathan Hefney of the group last year, Trey Flowers, who covered up for – they were worse than they looked. Trey Flowers covered up for some of their shortcomings last year. And I think sacrificed his own NFL career in the process. He's not there anymore.
Will we be talking about a true freshman having an impact? The message board suggests Jason Jenkins. Are we at that point?
I mean, I think it's possible that a true freshman could have an impact. I mean, I think mostly in the secondary. I think Tennessee. I mean, Jason Jenkins. He's a sophomore this year, right? I think he was in last year's recruiting class.
Yes, he's a sophomore this year. He was a freshman. He did play against Ball State, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, I'm on like one of those like kind of edge rusher lineman types, like making an impact. I don't know, Jason Jenkins, James Pierce, Joshua Josephs. I think one of those three could like turn into the new Byron Young.
I like Pierce's fluidity a lot. I could be talked out of Omari Thomas for Pierce. I like his hips, the way he moves. There's a lot of I like about him. I think he's a very good player. Is going to be a very good player. Has more talent than a lot of people might realize at this point. So I think Pierce has incredible upside. So fourth down, the last of 4 downs, brought to you by friends at Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn. Coming full circle. Josh Heupel names a starter after spring practice.
Have you covered Josh Heupel in these interviews? No.
Quarterback.
Josh Heupel's not naming a starter until like Friday before the game.
You don't think does he say anybody has an edge?
No. This is Josh Heupel. I'm sorry. Like, this is the one thing I knocked him for. It's like, I'm not going to get anything out of him with this. Nothing. I don't believe in gamesmanship like this. I don't know if you do, but like, I think Josh Heupel does believe in it and he employs it.
Oh, I totally believe he does. I was talking to somebody at the facility and I mentioned, you guys are having the coaches clinic now because that kind of fell off quite a bit. The high school coaches that would show up, it fell off because Tennessee was terrible. And now people want to see this Josh Heupel offense in person on the field, the wide splits, the tempo, and all that stuff. And the person told me they ain't going to see anything. He said for the time that the high school coaches are in there, they're not going to show them anything. And that's just Josh's or Coach Hype style is what they said.
Yeah, which is why I know you call him Spurrier 2.0. That's why he's the reverse of Spurrier. Spurrier was the most honest coach of all time and always told you what he felt about his team and what he was doing.
He did. And for that, I appreciated it. However, he was one thing that Josh Heupel will never be, I don't believe. And that is not that Josh Heupel's not quick-witted, but quick-witted at the mic, at the podium. I think Spurrier enjoyed that. I don't believe that Josh Heupel enjoys that at all. I don't think he likes taking shots. I don't think that's ever going to happen.
Spurrier would have straight up told us what Jeremy Banks did last year in the press conference.
Not much quarterback. That's what he did. And we can't tolerate that. He also missed a practice on Monday. And so one of two reasons or both, he is going to be suspended.
Exactly.
What he would scale of 1 to 10, my Spurrier impression?
Not as good as Todd Blackledge's Spurrier impression, I have to say. but better than a lot of others.
But I can play quarterback better than Todd Blackledge. I still remember the Brent Musburger exchange with Todd Blackledge, and Brent's just kind of playing out the string there. And you got all these quarterbacks drafted in 1983, and you got a guy named Marino, and you got this guy and that guy, and 6 quarterbacks taken in the first round. And then you got you. What happened? That was Todd Blackledge's response was, well, I tried my best. Rebecca saying we'll find out the starter when they begin the first game. I think that's probably true. Classic Josh Hype. Well, Andy Mason Real Estate is classic. Andy Mason Real Estate has over 40 years of experience right there in the Knoxville area. Don't go with another realtor that could cost you thousands or tens of thousands of dollars, because if you do, you don't get that money back. And in this market, you need somebody with the type of experience that Andy has. Best service, best prices. It's that simple. AndyMasonRealEstate.com. And then the other thing that we wanted to get to is Archie Manning or Nico. Who starts first? You suggested this before we get to a full recruiting update. So I asked this question of the one, the only Caleb Calhoun. What the H?
What the? What was he thinking?
Release the hounds.
The Dave Hooker Show.
Keep cool.
A presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
So what do you know about either the Nico situation or the Arch Manning situation at Texas that I don't? Because it seems that most people, including you and the national media, would say Nico would start behind Arch Manning, because everybody thinks that Joe Milton's got this season locked up. I'm not everybody. I'm not in that group, but most people are. So what do you know when you send me that email telling me to do my research on Texas, and I've done my research obviously on Tennessee? What do you know, Caleb, in your digging? Because I don't see that there's any way, based off the national media, even though I disagree, that the national media or you think that Nico is going to start before Arch Manning. You?
Well, so this arose because spring practice was underway at Texas. It started yesterday, and there's already been talk about Arch Manning versus Quinn Ewers at Texas. And I think we both watched a good bit of Quinn Ewers last year, just watching college football. I don't think he's that good. I don't know where you stand on him.
Not that good.
Yes, he's not.
But you have given me a question. That's why you're what the H for today. You have given me a question with 2 bad answers. I'm going to take out my personal feelings about what Nico will do this year. Okay. And I'm going to go big picture, because everybody's like, oh, you hate Joe. You're a Joe hater. I'm like, okay, fine. I'm a Joe hater. I'm not. I love the guy. I think he's a great dude. But taking my personal feelings out, you've given me 2 bad options, because the nation thinks that Nico is not going to start, and I think the nation thinks that Evers is. So what is your choice?
I think Arch Manning is going to start before Nico, because I think what you've been predicting about Nico, I think happens with Arch Manning. I think Arch Manning is going to be the starter by October. I think Arch Manning is starting when Texas plays Oklahoma. And I'm going to say that because just schedules for a minute. Texas is losing to Alabama week 2. Quinn Ewers is not going to beat Alabama. I think it's going to be way uglier than last year's game. I think after what happened, Alabama almost lost. I think Alabama just blows them out of the water.
It's a redemption year for Alabama, even though I don't like their coordinator hires. I think they'll get some redemption on some teams. Texas is a possibility. Tennessee is a possibility. Texas A&M is a possibility.
Correct. So they will destroy Texas. 2 weeks after Alabama, though, Texas has to go to Baylor. Now, I know Baylor went 6-7 last year, but Quinn Ewers versus Dave Aranda's defensive coaching at Baylor, I got my money on Baylor winning that. And I think Baylor's going to win, and I think it's going to be because Texas doesn't score that much, and their offense is going to be so porous that every fan in Austin, every caller in Austin after that Baylor game will be like, pull the plug, it's time for Arch Manning. Everybody's going to want Arch Manning, and I think Steve Sarkisian will pull the plug at that point and go with Arch Manning.
But everybody is going to say the same thing at Tennessee, and Tennessee's schedule was soft in the beginning. So
that's the point, though. It's soft in the beginning. They're not going to lose any games in the beginning. Texas is losing 2 games right out the gate.
Well, I'm going to play the other side. I think that the first bad game that Joe Milton has, and he's going to have one, the first bad one that he has, everybody's going to say Nico, right?
Yes, but you can overlook bad play when you're winning. You know this, Dave. You covered the 98 team. T. Martin played horrible the first 5 games of the year for Tennessee. It was ugly. It was bad quarterbacking at its worst. And I know Fred White probably didn't want to hear that because I know he loves T, and I agree they held him back and everything like that. But T. Martin did not look like a starting quarterback those first 5 games in 98, but they were 5-0. And he kept the job.
I just still think he was held back a lot. Gene says Brent Musburger is better than your Spurrier. I bet it is. Get it? Because Brent had a gambling problem. I
had a supermodel problem, but
do you find it odd that Manning's chose Steve Sarkisian as the coach for Arch, or is it just me? Well, I don't find it odd because David Cutcliffe isn't involved with college football on the coaching level anymore. Had David Cutcliffe been involved somewhere, I think they would have gone with Cutcliffe, but he's obviously up there. I think at the end of the day, both programs would rather be able to sit these guys for the season, right?
Probably. I just think that Texas is less likely to have that option than Tennessee, largely because Steve Sarkisian is a more pro-style offensive coach, but that means it's more dependent on the quarterback actually being good. Whereas, don't get me wrong, Josh Heupel needs his quarterback to be good, but only good at a couple of things, and he can still make it work. And so,
but you're also, there's also the argument that it's easier to play in Josh Heupel's system, which I believe is the case, Caleb. So you're saying that Arch Manning has to do more than Nico in year 1.
I think what they would do is simplify the playbook for Arch more than they did. I mean, we've seen freshmen at Tennessee this happen where they simplify the playbook for the freshmen if they're starting freshmen. Where Edwards' advantage is his experience, so I don't think they're going to simplify the playbook for him. They're going to expect him to be able to do more things. And if he can't, then it's like, why not go with the freshman at that point? Sidebar, because you brought up Cutcliffe. I'm curious. If you're a powerhouse program and you're in the running for Arch Manning and you were in flux with coaching, would you have hired David Cutcliffe as head coach just to get Arch Manning?
I don't think that's an option.
I do believe Ole Miss did that in 1999 with Eli, by the way.
Well, I totally believe that. I don't think it's an option at his age and his health right now.
Oh, okay.
Right. I don't think that was an option, or somebody would have.
Yeah.
No question in my mind. He would be a coach at Texas right now.
Yes. Just for those who don't know history, Ole Miss hires Cutcliffe in 99. Eli Manning gets there in 2000. Eli Manning leaves in 2003. Ole Miss fires Cutcliffe in 2004.
Yes. And they asked David to make extensive staff changes, and he wouldn't do that as well. Portions of the program brought to you by Zool Beer Company, xulbeer.com. Worldwide award-winning craft beer. It's awesome. Zool Beer Company is downtown Knoxville. It has parking. Can you believe that? It's unbelievable. ZoolBeer.com. Great merch as well. You give me 2 minutes and I'm going to give you what you absolutely need, and that's a recruiting update of all recruiting updates with Caleb Jarreau and his flowing hair. I'm the only one on this show that just has normal hair. I mean, you got Caleb who's using the hair gel, and you got Jarreau who looks like he fluffs his hair like that scene from Family Ties in the beginning. You remember Family Ties?
I know what Family Ties. Never watched it. Oh. Half this show is Dave doing references of shows that I was not alive when they were on. I mean, I probably was alive when Family Ties was on, but still.
You take the good, you take the bad, you take them both, and there you have the facts of life. The facts of life. It wasn't Family Ties, it was Facts of Life. 2 minutes recruiting Vols next. Stay tuned.
With all that sun, sand, and salt water, the beach is a very relaxing place. Unless you wear contacts. Ow! Open your eyes to the best the beach has to offer with LASIK vision correction from Campbell Cunningham Laser Center.
Do you want to own the more that owns every job? Then get to Vassey Lawn and Garden in Cleveland and get you a Toro. I'm David Vassey, here to talk to you about Toro. With a Toro Zero Turn, you'll get more out of every minute and you'll reach the finish line faster. At Bassey's, we like to say, no matter if you're mowing 3 acres a week or 11 lawns a day, homeowners and business owners alike find confidence in equipment they can trust from top to bottom.
Bassey Lawn and Garden, Highway 60 North in Cleveland.
Man alive, it's worth the drive.
Hey folks, Gary Viles here, Viles Automotive on Callahan Drive. I've been selling cars here in East Tennessee for 27 years. In that time, I've come to realize it's not about the car. It's about you, the customer. So I'm here to take care of you just like family. Good credit, bad credit, you name it, we can get you taken care of. If we don't have it, we can find it for you. We go across the country to get any vehicle that you want. And here at Viles Automotive, we don't believe in fake numbers. We just give you great deals. And as always, we want, we need, and we appreciate your business.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
Chattanooga, we're at it again. For the 5th year in a row, you voted us best of the best criminal and DUI law firm.
And finalists for best law firm and best personal injury firm.
Thank you for the love, Chattanooga. We won't let you down.
Our family has been creating jewelry since 1986, each piece unique with a story all its own. I'm Rick Terry with Rick Terry Jewelry Designs. I'm a jeweler, and I want to be your jeweler. We're grateful that you chose us to be Knoxville's best jeweler. My family and staff look forward to serving you. So please come see us. Kingston Pike and Campbell Station Road in the heart of Farragut, and downtown on Gay Street, right next to the Tennessee Theater.
Welcome back. Let's get it rolling with the one, the only Caleb Jarreau, as we'll talk some Tennessee football recruiting. Now, if you got a question on the message board, go ahead and put it in there, and we will address your questions about specific prospects. If you haven't checked out offthehooksports.com, you're missing a ton of recruiting updates. This Jarreau kid is absolutely killing it. Here we go. And John says, my hair is thinning. Man, just a little bit, but I'm working on it. The hairdresser told me about something called Keeps. Has anybody tried that online? Maybe that could be a new sponsor. I could reach out to them. And also, Caleb and I deserve a whipping because we didn't mention Johnny Majors in the Garden of Statues. What the H?
Yeah, we forgot Majors. That's true. I mean, we did. Hey, man, no Heisman, no national championship.
Yeah, and you have to put Peyton in there somewhere, but I think you've got 12 good guys. I might write a follow-up column on this thing.
His number is retired. Like, that's enough. Like that, like when your number's retired, I don't think you need a statue at that point. Like, I actually think that's a greater honor.
But that's like going straight to the majors and not playing AAA. You should get the statue, then the number retired. The number retired is a bigger thing.
Actually, Johnny Majors' number's retired too. I just looked it up. So we missed on that one.
But he doesn't have a statue.
No, he doesn't have a statue.
Attack. He's Caleb Calhoun. We're bringing in Jarreau right now for some Cruton, as it is Talking Cruton on the program. And it's brought to you by our friends at Bassey Lawn and Garden. Man alive, it is worth the drive.
Talking Cruton.
Am I right or am I right or am I right?
Who's on Tennessee's board? The names you need to know exclusively on Off the Hook Sports with Dave Hooker.
You're listening to The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of offthehooksports.com.
The internet is full of pictures of each and every one of you.
Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free.
Is there nothing you people can't do?
Also available on offthehooksports.com.
Calhoun can tell I'm having fun with my new toy now. My hot button touchscreen. We're going to look back at this one day, Calhoun, and all of our listeners out there that are with us early. And we're going to look back at that. You remember when Dave got his new touchscreen where he could put in drops? I've got one of the biggest, most exciting part of my day is that I'm going to add some drops in there that are way better than this. Way better than the rim shot. All right, let's bring Caleb Jarreau in. He's laughing. The rim shot is horrible. And
that's basically all we've been hearing when Tennessee basketball shoots this year on.
Oh, Is the rim shot?
Yeah.
Like that? It's just a brick by brick.
Yes, Butch Jones brick by. He'd be so proud of Tennessee basketball this year.
Oh man, I was watching. I'm into 60 Minutes Australia, which if you haven't seen it, is closer to TMZ than it really is. And I almost took a picture, but I was half asleep. There was some Butch Jones guy that was like a serial killer in Australia. I swear his name was Butch Jones.
Nice.
That's all I've got for you.
Smash the heads in brick by brick.
If you're not,
I guess his victims weren't champions of life.
No, they were not. But all right, hit the like button.
I'm going to hell. I'm sorry.
The thumbs up. We appreciate that. Brings more people in. Vassy Lawn and Garden, man alive. It's worth the drive. It's time for some recruiting. Vassy Lawn and Garden has commercial industrial mowers right there in Cleveland. I don't care if you're in Nashville, Knoxville, or Chattanooga. Get to Vassy Lawn and Garden, man alive. It's worth the drive. So a big weekend, a lot of offers out. Good morning, Caleb Jarreau. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are y'all?
Never better. So tell us about the offers flying fast and furious from On the Hill.
Well, the dead period is over and the coaches are able to talk to guys. So that's really what's happening right now. And there was a junior day this weekend, but they call it a junior day and they just invite whoever they're after. So I wouldn't really call it a junior day. But one of the guys I've been most excited about was a 2026 quarterback, Josiah. I don't want to butcher his last name, Oxendine. And he's a 2026 guy, so a freshman in high school, and he has got a lot of attention very early. And Tennessee was one of the people who reached out to him early, and they've been on him. And he actually camped with Joey Halsley and Josh Heupel at a couple of their camps, and he visited over the summer. So maybe he'll become the next Nico. I don't know, but he's already 6 foot, 185 pounds. He's got a lot of guys looking at him early, and Tennessee is in there early. So he's a guy that I think we should remember his name and follow along as he grows up and goes through his recruitment.
Who are some of the guys that are already on him? Or some of the schools, I should say.
Yeah, so he said he's talking to both Carolinas, so South Carolina, North Carolina. And then let me double check. I don't want to tell you the wrong thing. But I'm pretty sure he's also talking to some of the Alabama schools as well. But like we talked about before, and y'all can kind of add on to this, I think it's very important, even as Tennessee becomes better at their recruiting and better at football, that they still continue to find these guys early and get in early. Because at the end of the day, if they're like 50-50 on Tennessee or another school and they're like, hey, well, Joey Halsley has been coming to my camps and watching me play since freshman year, that might sway them a little bit. So that's one that I think. Clemson was a big one on his list. Georgia, he's camped with Georgia, NC State, Coastal Carolina, some schools like that as well, some smaller schools. But he likes Tennessee, and it seems like Joey Halsley is high on him as well.
Calhoun, take it away. Travis saying great coverage on the Lady Vols. By the way, Caleb Jarreau, so you're getting a shout-out there as well. Statue of Dave Hooker with a white beard. I don't think they're going to put a statue of me anytime soon up there. I think both Calebs have a better shot at that. Roll with it, Calhoun.
I don't know. I think I've already upset enough people on Narky Top 2 who don't like me. But Jarreau, I want to stick with 2026, funny enough, because normally when you offer somebody that early on, you would think like a quarterback because you have to get in early. But Tennessee has offered Jamarian Gordon, a 2026 prospect out of Alabama, and he's already comparing Tennessee versus Alabama. What are the chances Tennessee plucks him out of there? And then Nick Saban comes out and does some complaining and says there should be a new rule where Tennessee can't recruit players from Alabama.
Yeah, and I don't know about all that, but a funny thing is Nick Saban's MO, and y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, but it hasn't really been recruiting guys early because he's never had to. If he wants somebody, whether they're coming to college next year or 2 years down the road, he can usually get them. So he's been recruiting Gordon early, and Gordon actually took a visit to Alabama. And when he was talking to me and he was comparing Alabama to Tennessee, he said that, and he's been to Auburn, so both in-state schools for him. He said that no school has had a place like Tennessee where they have a coach, basically like a tour guide, following him around and telling him like where he'll fit everywhere and kind of like what his day-to-day life will be. So he said that really stood out about him at Tennessee. He really enjoyed meeting Coach Heupel, and they got to sit down and watch film, and the coaches kind of told him he's a secondary player. So they kind of told him some of the things they look for when they're recruiting guys in the secondary, like how well your hips are, or how he can fit in Tennessee's defense, 4 years down the road. So I feel like that's another guy they're getting in early on, and obviously they're doing something right if he said that his visit to Tennessee was better than his visits to Alabama and Auburn.
Yeah, that's what threw me off is Nick Saban going for a cornerback in state at 2026 must mean this guy is going to be really good. And now moving on to 2025, there's a Jalen Carey. Is that how you pronounce his last name or his first name?
I think it's just Jalen.
Jalen. Okay. All right. Can you talk about him, a local in-state prospect from Cleveland? You're right. Tennessee's been doing well in that Cleveland area recently. So talk a little bit about him.
Yeah, and for Josh Heupel, really, we saw this past class, the 23 class, and while he got some in-state guys, he was still new at Tennessee, and locking down the state borders wasn't. I mean, it's probably priority number one, but it wasn't something he could really turn around in half a year. So 24 is when we really see Josh Heupel attacking in-state and making sure that anybody Tennessee wants in the state of Tennessee, they can have. So out of Bradley Central, you have, 2025 Jalen Terry. And also out of Bradley Central was Marcus Goree Jr., who just committed not too long ago. So he's very familiar with the coaching staff, not just because of his visit to Tennessee, but because every time they went to Bradley Central to talk to Goree and Bradley Central's head coach, they also talked to Jalen Terry and some other guys over there. So they've obviously had a lot of success, and he really likes Heupel. And something that stood out about him when he was visiting Tennessee's facilities over the weekend was their emphasis on once you graduate from Tennessee, you're a Vol for life. Like, you can always come back. He talked about how the coaches told him that when Peyton Manning was still in the NFL, he would come back to Tennessee's facilities to get workouts in, and some other guys would also do that as well. And he said he really liked that. And he also liked that even if you leave Tennessee and you don't make it to the NFL, you're still welcome back into the facilities to talk to players and kind of give your insight on life. So that's something that stood out to him, and I think that was super cool that they did that.
I had a question about Jeremiah Smith, who's committed to Ohio State, and a lot of other schools have continued to make a run at Smith, including Tennessee, Miami, Florida, and Florida State. So we had a question on the message board. What I'm hearing as far as Smith is that this is if Tennessee or any other school is going to pull him, Ohio State's going to have to stumble this year. And if that happens, then you wonder just how dominant Ohio State will continue to be. And does he want to get in the SEC? Florida going after him, that feels like a reach to me. Florida State as well. But there is, an inclination for him to look at other schools. But I don't think anything's going to happen with him until you get to the season, and maybe, I'm not saying things will go south for Ohio State. I haven't really dove into them yet, but if things were to go south, then I think that other schools could get involved, and that would include Tennessee. But at this point, I'll ask you both and just jump in, whoever wants to. When you look at Ryan Day and Josh Heupel, I think Ryan Day was the rising young star when he took over that program at Ohio State. It was part of the reason they were willing to make the move from Urban Meyer so easily. But now, who's the rising young star? Is it Josh Heupel or Ryan Day?
Jarreau, I'll let you start with that.
Well, I think Ryan Day at this point is more of a proven commodity. So I feel like if you're saying somebody's a rising young star, they probably haven't done much yet. And I feel like Ryan Day was able to take over an Ohio State program that was at the top of college football, and he was able to keep it at the top of college football. So I wouldn't call him a rising young star as much, because I feel like he's risen already.
Yeah, probably fair.
I'm going the other way.
Go ahead.
But yeah, I don't think he's a proven. I think he's a proven non-commodity. I think he's proven not to be that good of a coach. Honestly, I don't think it's that hard to keep Ohio State at the top. And I think what's really hurting right now, just wanted to point out, if you guys haven't noticed, Urban Meyer offensive coordinators are recently getting fired. Tom Herman got fired from Texas. Dan Mullen got fired from Florida. That coaching tree is not having the same pull it had about 10 years ago.
Offenses, when you think about it, 15 years old with Alex Smith back in the day at Utah.
20 years old, actually.
Yeah, 20. Max Anderson, the offensive tackle, had a question on the board about him out of Frisco, Texas. Yeah, he has set his visit to Tennessee. He's also looking at Alabama, Arkansas, Florida as well. A 4-star guy by the 247 composite, which we use as our default on Off the Hook Sports. I think the fact that he set his visit says wonders about Tennessee. But in the end, I think this is going to be a pretty long battle. And he's a guy out of, again, Frisco, Texas, Reedy High School, 2024. that will certainly be sought after. Already 6'5", 300 pounds. Jarreau, this is the type of guy that Tennessee will have to battle with other schools when they start beating the Alabamas and the Georgias of the world. For this type of guy, that's another evolution in Tennessee's recruiting.
I think so. And for Anderson as well, a school we're not talking about is Oklahoma, because his brother goes to Oklahoma. He lives in Frisco, Texas, so he's close to Oklahoma. And realistically, I feel like if Brent Venables, I don't know what his commitment timeline looks like. He might go on visits and commit in the summer. But if he does choose to be one of those guys that waits until signing day, if Brent Venables all of a sudden turns around Oklahoma's program this year, he might want to go play with his brother at be a Sooner. So that's another place to watch. But for an O-lineman, I still feel like if Alabama wants him, they're probably going to get him. And, I mean, LSU's in there, Florida's in there, Oregon, Ohio State, who we just talked about, is in there. So Tennessee does have a really big battle, but he set an official visit for June 23rd, so they're able to roll out the red carpet and see if they can't sway him to be a Vol over some of the other places.
Hit that thumbs up, that like button. Caleb Calhoun. It used to be a situation in which you'd say he might not go to Oklahoma to be with his brother because then he'd be locked into a scholarship there, as Jarreau goes off camera. But if he might not be, but now with the transfer portal thing, I don't know. He could go to Oklahoma, see if he likes it, see if Brent Venables continues to run that program into the ground. And once he does, both he and his brother could transfer.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I'm trying to think of the last time two high-profile brothers went to different schools.
Yeah, maybe one of them's on the YouTube channel. Maybe.
No, I'm
Cooper Cade. Is that who you're referring to?
Well, but Cade went to Georgia, Cooper went to Tennessee, and then Cade decided to go back to Tennessee.
Right.
So, no, I'm trying to think where they and Tennessee was always the main school for the Mays family. Cade would have gone to Tennessee if Butch Jones hadn't let the program fall apart.
Agreed. And Cooper actually wasn't going to go anywhere else because Jeremy Pruitt just loved him. Just thought that he could play tight end, which he did, tight end, fullback, any number of positions, and just thought he was a football player because of toughness, and size was the biggest issue with Coop, but that's not anymore. So as he's right at 300 pounds and with a lighter offensive line that Josh Heupel likes to run, then I think Tennessee's good. So Jarreau, I know there's a big camp in Atlanta this weekend. Several prospects will be there. Anything else up on the calendar coming soon?
For spring practice, which is supposed to start March 20th, hopefully we get a schedule for that soon. A lot of these prospects who are closer, like 2024s, often opt to come for a spring practice to see what it would look like when they're a player, because most of these guys probably saw the facilities in the fall for a game visit. So I feel like people should stay tuned in, because as we go through the spring, we'll have a lot of guys trickle in for spring practice. And then the spring game on April 15th, I bet we'll have a lot of prospects in as well. And then, like Calhoun said, once the spring game's done, we just wait for school to end, and then we're going to have official visits rolling in probably every weekend, and we will be staying very busy.
Yep, absolutely. And Jarreau, you're, I believe, if not already, the next great Tennessee football recruiting reporter. So I'll pass along one little tip, and that is not to attack Clay Travis as a racist, as Ryan Callahan apparently was accused of doing at 247. And you get on Clay Travis's bad side, Caleb Calhoun, and it doesn't go away as easy as you might think it would. Suddenly you want, and I think,
oops, lost you guys.
Go ahead, Calhoun.
I was going to say, I don't mind getting on Clay Travis's bad side, but yeah, that was a bad attack. Clay Travis is the wrongest man in America. If you guys look the last 2 years, if Clay Travis says something, the opposite is true. His predictions have been so wrong, it's embarrassing.
Ouch.
So we're on his bad side now, Dave.
Yeah, that's fair. And he also likes personal text messages, which I thought was a little weird. Jarreau, great stuff. Smoky Mountain Red says Trombone Jones. There's nothing wrong with a trombone. All right, have a fantastic day, everyone. We appreciate it. We'll be with you at 10 a.m. Eastern time each and every weekday. We're excited to do that.
Quick advice before you let us go, Dave.
What is that?
I got to give Jarreau some advice real quick on this. Since you brought up the whole facilities and being able to come back and the Vol for Life thing, just YouTube a little spat Dave Hooker had with Derek Dooley about 12 years ago.
We did have a spat. Their former
Derek
players,
Dooley did not want players coming back.
yes, former players reached out to me and said, this is BS. We want to be able to go to the facility and not have to ask Condridge Holloway, who's busy. And so I asked the question on behalf of the players. And at the time, I was the idiot because people didn't know that Derek Dooley was truly the idiot. There we go. Have a fantastic day, everyone. He's Caleb Jarreau. He's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker, Off the Hook Sports, the Dave Hooker Show each and every weekday at 10 a.m. So looking forward to it. Hopefully a big announcement by the end of the week. Have a great Tuesday, and we'll talk to you soon. Off the Hook.